we of the veterans of foreign wars have seen firsthand the tremendous cost of freedom. For that reason, we have invited you here today to pay tribute to those who have paid so dearly for our freedom. 62 years ago this morning, the sky over Pearl Harbor, Hawaii was filled with Japanese planes. When the last wave of attacking aircraft rejoined the Japanese fleet, 1,178 Americans lay wounded and 2,403 lay dead or dying. A great portion of the U.S. fleet was in shambles. Thus began America's entry into World War II. 5 years that changed the world. The United States returned from World War II as the world's greatest military and economic power. America was the world's peacekeeper and a symbol of freedom and liberty for all. But today, we are here to pay homage to those who paid the price for America's greatness. That Sunday morning at Pearl Harbor, servicemen were killed as they ran to man their battle stations. Families across our nation listened in horror as the radio announced the destruction and death. For those men and women and their families, we are gathered today. For the next 44 months, spouses and children watched their fathers and mothers answer the call to arms. 293,131 of those men and women never saw their families again. For those, we are gathered here today. So as we gather to remember those lost on this anniversary of Pearl Harbor, it is time to say thank you. Thank you to the 2,403 of Pearl Harbor, for whom the beginning was also the end. To also say thank you to every man, woman, and child who paid a price so that we might stand here today. As living veterans of foreign wars, we have all paid a price to enjoy the freedoms that we enjoy today. We ask you to join us in our grief over friends lost, and in our sympathy for the servicemen and their families who have suffered, and for those currently in and facing harm's way. Join us in recalling their sacrifices, their bravery, and their commitment. But also join us in our joy for having served the greatest nation on the face of the earth. For all who have served, for all who have suffered, and for all who have died, join us as we say, may Almighty God bless them, and may God bless America. At this time, I'd ask you to please rise for presentation of the colors by the Du Bois Area Honor Guard, the playing of the national anthem by Rudzinski, and the Pledge of Allegiance and invocation led by our Post Chaplain. Commander of the Color Guard, advance, present, and prepare to post the colors.
Oh, guard. Okay. Hot. Guards. Port. Arm. And a trail. March.
Ready and salute.
Heavenly Father, forgive the years of memory
Among thy servants who gave their lives at Pearl Harbor on December 7, 1941. Because of their dedication to duty, we still enjoy the freedoms we inherited from our forefathers. Because they served well, we are proud to call them our own. We ask that following in their footsteps, we may continue in thy service until thy summons comes. Then the knowledge that we may be worthy to be united with them and with thee forever. Amen.
Amen.
Please be seated.
Guard, right face, forward arms, and trail march.
At this time, we have a written eyewitness account of December 7, 1941, as seen through the eyes of Bob Kerr, U.S. Army retired, and read by our own Mayor Putterbuck.
Many of you know Harry Bob Kerr, native of Big Run, and now living in Atlanta, Georgia. And he wrote an eyewitness account of what actually happened that day. And when he sent the letter to Jim, he said, Jim, this is a talk I gave at the Atlantic Historical Society 5 or 6 years ago. I spent more time answering questions than did the talk take. Early Sunday morning, December 7th, 1941, found the garrison at Hickam Field, Hawaii, doing the usual Sunday morning routine. Some crew members on the bombers were on the hangar line. Control tower operators were on the job, anticipating with much excitement the arrival of a flight of B-17s from the mainland. Most offices were routinely manned by a non-commissioned officer. Most excitement he expected would come from the Sunday morning colored funnies. Base headquarters had a staff duty officer on duty. The married officers and NCOs were looking forward to another day off to be with their family. The non-duty personnel were lolling in the barracks, some already in the large consolidated mess hall for early chow. Many different day-off plans were ready to be implemented. Ball games, trips to a beach, trip around the island, visit a cousin, or other friend at another base, chapel services. A friend and I were planning to go to Honolulu to attend Sunday school and church. We had a decision of monumental proportions to make. Should we make breakfast in the mess hall or take a chance on coffee and donuts at the church fellowship? We never came to a conclusion because suddenly there was a loud bang, loudest I'd ever heard. One of the men from the other side of the barracks screamed, "The HAD warehouse just exploded." By then there were other explosions. Men were arguing as to what was going on. The Navy is playing war games. It's the A-20 pilots playing around. What's that smell? There's a swarm of Japanese airplanes flying around here. With a smell of gunpowder in the air, the sound of bursting bombs and small arms fire, the eerie shout, calling of my fellow soldiers, I calmly dressed, walked to the bathroom, and brushed my teeth. Our squadron area, as all other units on the base, was experiencing utter chaos. Someone had mistaken the smell of gunpowder to be a poison gas. He was cranking a klaxon horn and hollering gas. Confusion reigned. While enemy fighter pilots, planes, and torpedo bombers circled over our area, our squadron commander was blowing a whistle and trying to get the crew troops to fall in for roll call information. Someone tackled this bewildered officer and dragged him to the relative safety of the base of the concrete barracks. On the steps of our barracks, Wing D of the largest one-roof barracks in the U.S. military establishment, I saw my first dead man of World War II. Laying face down on the cement steps was one of our squadron cooks, Eddie Moser. He was dressed in the regulation white uniform of the Army cooks. There was no evidence of blood on his back, but when we turned him over, we could see that he was dead. The consolidated mess received a direct hit, killing several men. It had been estimated that approximately 50 airmen were killed as a result of 2 direct hits on the mess hall. As a one-sided battle raged, the Army Air Corps soldiers performed in various ways. Crew members reported to the remains of their hangar and planes. A plan for perimeter defense, which had been practiced on Thursday, Friday, and Saturday, was ignored on Sunday. Soldiers were there without leadership. Excuse me. I honestly don't remember how I volunteered for a cleanup detail. In the absence of instructions, we were loading bodies, both dead and wounded, onto a truck. We moved them to the station hospital. The hospital was already crowded with the walking wounded. Upon returning to the squadron area with the empty truck, it was then that I learned that practically every military base on the island of Oahu had been hit by the Japanese Naval and Air Force. Pearl Harbor, an easy target after the planes were made immobile, was laying in ruin. Wheeler Field fighter planes were made useless. Kanakoi Bay, Naval Base, Ford Island, and other bases felt the sting of the Japanese aircraft. After a couple more deliveries of the wounded to the hospital, I finally received some instructions. Excuse me. I was ordered to take a truck to the officers' quarters and pick up dependents, women and children only. One suitcase per family, no pets. We transported them in the back of the truck to a tunnel on the IE mountain side. As a sidelight human interest story, on one trip we moved 2 young women and their children. They were sisters, one married to an Army Air Corps officer, one to a Navy officer. The Navy wife had recently came to the islands and was making her first visit to her sister at Hickam Field. Heroes, yes, there were many. Men who had their airplanes destroyed before they had a chance to fly them ended up manning weapons they had never seen before. Some drove truck, some moved tattered bodies. Some became firefighters, some became cooks, and all wondered when would the Japanese follow up with a ground landing attack. I was not a hero, but I did receive my first military citation for actions, not something one would associate with combat, on December 7th, 1941, but as a result of that attack. I was a squadron clerk for the 23rd Material Squadron and just completed the December payroll. We got paid on the 10th of the month. On my own initiative, I took a copy of the payroll and started a squadron muster. I started this late on December 7th and finished it in late on December 8th. Every member of the 23rd Squadron had been accounted for. I visited every hospital, every known morgue, bomb dump, wherever troops were concentrated until I personally saw the person whose name was on the official payroll roster. For my efforts, I received a commendation from the base commander and was promoted from private to sergeant. The Army Air Corps is proud of the contributions made during World War II. The Corps was overly proud when on April 1942, the Corps was raised to the rank of Army Air Force. And he said, as he continued on, Jim, I wish that I was there with you, in Big Ground with you and the other veterans and a few of my old friends to participate in your program. And he expresses the good job that the post is doing.
Thank you, Joe. At this time, it's my extreme pleasure to introduce a very special guest. Another eyewitness account of December the 7th, 1941 from the perspective of the Navy. However, tonight we have the pleasure of it being represented live by Al Rudzinski, who was aboard one of the ships a couple berths down from USS Arizona on that fateful day. And this evening he will talk about that morning 62 years ago. Ladies and gentlemen, a real Pearl Harbor Day survivor, Al Rudzinski.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Just 62 years ago, approximately 1 o'clock your time, was our destiny. It was 8 o'clock in the morning on December 7th, 1941. But I'll start from the beginning. I joined the Navy on January 15th, 1941. I went to boot camp up in Rhode Island, cold and blazes, out on the plaza there, and anyhow, we got training was about a little over 3 months, and then I was given a few days leave and transferred to San Diego, California, from the hell of heaven to hell, I guess. But anyhow, and then we went to San Diego, California. I was in radio school there for approximately 4 months, and I learned the Morse code and communications of the Navy. And on the 25th of August, 1941, I was transferred by a troop ship, the USS Warden, from San Diego to Hawaii as a passenger on a troop ship. And when I looked at this ship, I thought, oh, what a nice big ship this is. I'm going to get seasick on this. This is a big palace, you know. Well, no sooner we broke the breakwater, I was over the rail. And I was over the rail continually until we tied up in Pearl Harbor. When I got to Pearl Harbor, soon to be tied up again, I was well. And I was assigned to the USS Cummings, D-365, a destroyer. And I had a brother also in Pearl Harbor, and he was aboard the USS Perry. He was at the Pearl Harbor, Pearl City end of it. Pearl Harbor is like a big donut. Fort Island is the center, which was the air base, and I was in the shipyard end of it, facing Battleship Road. The battleships were tied up there. We had 9 battleships in the Pacific Fleet. 7 of them were tied up, some single, some double, right across the water from me, looked like across the room from there. And 7 were tied up there. One, the USS Pennsylvania, was in dry dock at Pearl Harbor. And the other one was in Bremer, Washington, in dry dock. So we had 9 battleships in the Pacific Fleet. Well, anyhow, on the 6th day of December, the executive officer of the USS Cummings got command of the USS Ward, which is another destroyer. And she had a destroyer and a minesweeper. And she was patrolling the gates just outside of Pearl Harbor on the morning of the 6th of December, 1941. And he heard something on the sound here that he thought was a submarine following the wake of a ship coming into the harbor. So anyhow, he put a ship over and dropped depth charges and supposedly, and did, sink a 2-man sub. But just at 6 o'clock in the morning, and everything was quiet about that. They weren't too sure of what happened there because they couldn't see it down under the sea, but they knew something was there that should have been there. So anyhow, that was kept quiet. And anyhow, on the 6th day of December, me and my brother, he was 3 years older than me, we went around to different installations around Pearl Harbor, including Fort Island, which is the Naval Air Base, Hickam Field, which is the Army Air Base, Wheeler Field, which is the Army Air Base, and different ships in the fleet that where we knew somebody from our Du Bois area was aboard. I was 19 years old on the 5th day of December. So me and my brother went to these installations, and we had 17 people, including us two, that we were going to meet in Honolulu at 1 o'clock on the 7th day of December to celebrate my birthday. I was just 19 years old but we weren't drinking that night. We were just going to be a little gathering. Well, anyhow, excuse me, on the 7th day of December then, I was a junior radioman aboard USS Cummings, and we were in a slip at the Pearl Harbor shipyard. And we were in for some repairs, so we didn't have any power. Our boilers were down, and being a junior radioman, I had a duster Radio Shack and get the coffee pot ready, and I took it out and took the dustpan out and dusted it over the side. While I was standing there, it was a beautiful Sunday morning, nice, warm, sunny day that you'd have to go to Pearl Harbor or go to Hawaii to see such a beautiful day. Well, while I was out on deck, dumping this dustpan over the side, I looked up in the sky, and I saw waves of bombers coming over. And Pearl Harbor, the shipyard, was approximately a half a mile from Hickam Field. Hickam Field was just over us. And I looked up there, and I could see them flying over and dropping bombs. And I thought to myself, what the heck is this? So I went back in the Radio Shack. I called the radioman second, his name was Vail, I'll never forget his name. I said, look, Vail, the Army's practicing over at Hickam Field. So anyhow, we stood there and watched. It felt like 5 minutes, but I'm sure it was more like 30 or 45 seconds. And then, right off our fantail, we were in a slip, and the channel was in front of us. Battleships were all lined up down here. We saw a plane come in right off the water. A destroyer is only about 5 feet off the water on the stern. And right off our stern, there came a plane floating right down the middle of the channel, in the air, about 3 or 4 feet off the water. We saw it, and I looked over, and I swear I saw the gold teeth, but I'm sure it was just the shine of the something on that aircraft in the cockpit. Anyhow, he dropped a torpedo. He dropped the torpedo right to the USS West Virginia. And after he dropped that torpedo, he banked and pulled up around us like that, and then we saw red circles on the wings, not a star. And Bill said to me, he said, Jesus Christ, that's the Jats! That's the Jats! So anyhow, we went back in the Radio Shack, and we turned the radio on, and all we heard was, this is not a drill. This is not a drill. Air raid. Air raid. Take cover. This is not a drill. Well, anyhow, watch what they did. When I thought high-level bomb was coming over, they were dropping bombs on Hickam Field, which is an air base. And right in the middle of Pearl Harbor was Fort Island, which is a naval air base. And up in the hills, there was Wheeler Field, another air base. What they did, they went in there and neutralized all the air bases by bomb and straight. And we couldn't get a plane up. They completely destroyed our airfields. Completely destroyed every aircraft that was able to go. And so anyhow, then we heard it on the air, then they started the torpedoes. And the USS Enterprise, which is an aircraft carrier, she was in port a couple days before. Now, I don't exactly know when she went out, but she was on the opposite side of Fort Island from the side that I was on. But she went to sea. And an old target battleship came in and berthed in her place. Well, when the torpedoing started, this battleship that was berthed in the place of the Enterprise It took 7 fish real quick. When I say 7 fish, I'm talking about 7 torpedoes. And it rolled her right over. Her keel was in the air. She didn't blow up. She just took on water and rolled. And in the meantime, I'm watching the battleship road there, where the 7 battleships are, and I saw an explosion on the Arizona. When the Arizona went up, what happened to her was they dropped the bomb down through the stacks of the Arizona. And when it went down, it hit the bottom of the stack. It was near the magazines. The magazines is a place where the ammunition is stored, the powder is stored, and all that. That's all stored there. And once it got down to the bottom, the bomb blew. Well, that blew the USS Arizona from the inside out. The only survivors on the Arizona, and it seemed to me, as I recall, there was about 1,500 men aboard the Arizona, and well over 1,000 of them died. The only ones that didn't die were a few did get blown off the deck, but the rest of them were on liberty. They weren't on the ship. Well, anyhow, after this, and when I saw this going on, I'm 19 years old. I got scared. I ran up to the radio shack, locked the hatch on one side, locked the hatch on the other side. I'm running back and forth, and geez, what am I doing? And I thought to myself, what the heck am I doing here? I belong on number 3 turret, on the sight setter on number 3 turret. So I went up there on the number 3 turret and took my position as a sight setter, and we were firing away with at the high level with 5-inch guns, at the low level with 20-millimeter guns. And when I looked out behind the shield, the sky looked like a sparkler. The whole sky looked like a sparkler. I mean, every place you looked like a sparkler. And on the 20-millimeter guns, every 5th cartridge is a tracer. And that way they could tell where the bullets were hitting as they were following aircraft to shoot them down. Well, you can imagine if that sky looked like a sparkler, there's only 1 to 5, every one showing light. Well, you can imagine how much steel was in the air. But anyhow, the planes come in, and then they start coming in low, and we were shooting at them. We knocked some of them down. Most of them got away. But anyhow, we finally got the steam up. I mean, I'd say this whole thing lasted approximately an hour, but it felt like a month. If you were in it, you'd say the same thing. But anyhow, we were getting the steam up, and when we were closing our 5-inch guns, we didn't have power. So the crew had 4x4s. They laid a projectile in there, jam it in with them 4x4s, close the breech, and fire it manually. And so anyhow, that's how prepared we were. And but anyhow, this lasted for quite a while, and we looked, and you never saw. I mean, I never knew water burned. I never knew steel burned, but it sure did that day. And the whole harbor was nothing but a black mess of smoke, real heavy smoke from burning oil and burning ships. And so anyhow, I said the Japs come over to celebrate my birthday, 8 o'clock instead of 1. And but anyhow, then we finally settled down, and like I said, we did some firing, we knocked some planes down, but most of them by far got away. They did their damage. They did their damage before we could get a plane up, before we knew what was going on. And like I say, the Enterprise, she went out to sea a day or two before that, but she was in the harbor, and when that target battleship came in there, why, she took the 7th fish. And then, being a radioman, we finally got steam up, and we cleared the harbor about 1 o'clock in the afternoon. So it was about 5 hours before we could get underway. But then, being a radioman, I could hear all the news and stuff, and I heard U.S. Fleet hunts out Japs. And we're out there with a couple of destroyers, a couple of cruisers, battleships are all on the bottom of the bay in Pearl Harbor. No aircraft carriers, no nothing. And I thought, boy, if we ever find the Japs, we're suicide. But we didn't find them, thank God. So anyhow, we were on patrol out there for about 7 to 10 days. I don't remember exactly how long. So we come back into the harbor, and it was a total mess. We get back into the harbor on the outside field. It's just like a dam, like you see a farm pond where you see the grass all around it. Well, we looked on this grass, and there were a couple of thousand of pine boxes there, waiting to take off the dead off the Arizona and the rest. Well, and that cut. But anyhow, we provisioned and refueled, and we escorted the first wounded back to the United States. And we sailed under the, when we come in, I scratched a quick letter off to my mother saying that we're both okay. But I didn't know for sure. I knew his ship didn't get down, but I didn't hear of it being hit, so I took for granted he was all right. But anyhow, then we escorted these wounded. They made up hospital ships, improvised, to get, because at that time, they didn't have aircraft to haul, because anymore, wounded go by air. Well, there was no air there, no planes there to haul them back. So we hauled them back on these hauls, and we were the destroyer escort. And we sailed under the Golden Gate Bridge at noon on Christmas Day. And then the people around San Francisco heard that this is the first part of the fleet returning from Pearl Harbor that weathered the attack. So as soon as we docked, we had crowds of people all around us. Come on to the house for dinner. Come on, it's Christmas Day. Come on for dinner. Come on for dinner, you know. And one shipmate of mine, he lived about 40 miles from San Francisco. We went to his house. But anyhow, what these people all wanted to know, they wanted to know what happened at Pearl Harbor. They said, what the hell happened at Pearl Harbor? And so anyhow, we enjoyed San Francisco then for just a little bit after the New Year. We was in there for about 9 or 10 days. And then we took the next escort out back to Pearl Harbor. And we were about 4 or 5 days out to sea. When at this time, every morning and every night, everybody stands at general quarters. Everybody stands at the guns, sights, look for periscopes, for aircraft, for anything, because the biggest part of the attacks come at sunrise and sunset. Because they come out of the sun, you don't see them. But anyhow, about the 5th day out, right at the general quarters, a quartermaster, the name of Atkins, and I remember his name to this day, that was 62 years ago. He was leaving his quarters and going back to living quarters to wash up and stuff, get ready for breakfast. And the wave hit us on the side of the ship. The wave come over our decks, and our torpedo tubes are lined up on either side of the destroyers. And there's approximately that much space under the torpedo tubes. And Wade hit him and washed him under the torpedo tubes and out into the drink. Well, we got permission from the commander of the convoy to go back and pick him up. He waved. And the people in the after part of the ship, they threw donut life rafts out to him. So we got permission to come back and circle. And we picked up his Pico and his life rafts, but we lost him. And I'll tell you, that is just like losing a brother after going through Pearl Harbor, having a good time in San Francisco, going back, and a nice, quiet morning, basically, except for the waves, we lost the guy. He had 6 years in the Navy. So that kind of cut us pretty bad. So anyhow, then we went back to the fleet, and I was with the fleet then for until April. And in April, I was assigned to merchant ships. We were assigned as a gun crew and a communications team to different merchant ships that were hauling troops, supplies, whatever, in convoy. And so anyhow, I was assigned to the Armed Guard from that time on. And being in the Armed Guard, you only take about 1 or 2 cruises with the ship, and you get off, and you get another one, go again. And in my 6 years in the Navy, other than my training and boot training and school, I was never short base for more than 30 days, mostly 15 days or less, and reassigned to a ship. To me, the Navy was a big adventure. I'm 19 years old, I've seen a lot, and every time we were going, we didn't know where we were going. We were going, didn't know where. And we wound up I participated in the invasion of North Africa within their day after the invasion with supplies, the invasion of Bizerte, the invasion of Salerno. We were hauling supplies to Murmansk, Russia, and based out of Gurot, Scotland. Well, we started out with 72 ships. We got out about 3 days, and the ocean got so rough and so clouded in, you couldn't see anything, and the ships were just like bombs on the water. And at that time, the Navy was paying 20% on top of your wages, or top of your monthly stipend for sea duty, and 50% for air duty. Well, we felt that we should have been getting 70%, because half the time we were under the water, the other time we were up in the air. So anyhow, and all this was taking place. And an interesting thing about this, when I joined the Navy was paying $21 a month. That was our pay, $21 a month. For 4 months, then we went to 30. Then we went to 36. And if we got ranked, we went to 50. So we did all this on that kind of wages, and willingly, very, very willingly. But in my Navy career, I was in it for 6 years, never short base more than about 15 days, except one time or twice, maybe had 30 days. But I sailed both oceans, I don't know how many times. I went through the Panama Canal, went to Australia, and then we went to Guam, and after they liberated the Philippines, we went into the Philippines. We went into the Philippines with supplies and stuff, and we were anchored out approximately 3 miles. And every night we would take our garbage and dump it over the side into the bay at Philippines. And little kids, anywhere from 3 up, swam out to them ships every day. When we dumped our garbage, they just picked up a bone, a piece of bread, a pork chop bone, a wiener, or whatever they could get. They pulled it right out of the water to eat, and they ate it. And like I say, if anybody thinks that somebody is hungry here, you should witness that. And I'm talking about anywhere from 3 to 4 years old up. And another thing, during the daytime, they would swim out, and being we were there and had American money, they'd swim out and they'd say, coin buddy, and you could throw a coin any place, any direction, as far as you wanted to throw it, and they never missed a coin. They got that coin, they swim out of the water, they swim like a fish. The water was clear, you'd see them swimming, they'd get that coin, tuck it in their trunks, and come back, coin buddy, you know. But anyhow, the thing is, I'm trying to point out there the fact that they were hungry, and we didn't know what hunger was. I didn't know what hunger was until I witnessed that. But anyhow, then after the war was over in Europe, I was assigned back out of the Armed Guard back to the regular Navy. And I was assigned to the USS Albemarle at Pearl Harbor again. And we hauled the atomic bomb from Pearl Harbor to Guam, Tinian. And at that time, all the ships went out in convoy. Well, being what we had on board, we didn't know what we had. We knew we had something hot. We saw the security and everything. We knew something was hot. We didn't know what it was, and nobody would tell us. So we finally, so they figured, instead of sending out a convoy, they'll sacrifice one ship and its crew to get this bomb over to Guam. And I mean, we didn't know where the bomb was. We didn't know what it was. We didn't know what it was. But we got into Guam that night, one night. The next morning, the bombers took off, the B-29s took off, and they dropped them on Nagasaki. And so when they come back, then they told us what we had on board. Well, that was the beginning of the end of the war. And so I still had 4 or 5 months to serve, because I was on a 6-year enlistment. And so we were assigned to go to Bikini and Eniwetok, and they had atomic bomb tests there. And they had an atomic bomb test over ships, and they had an atomic bomb test over land, Eniwetok and Bikini. And then, so I witnessed in sight. I mean, we were probably 6 or 7 miles away. We saw the big mushroom, and we were in the fallout. We had the lab ship. We sent boats in there with our technicians that took the samples and stuff like that. They brought them back on board, and we analyzed them and everything. And twice, they took 6 feet of soil off Eniwetok and replaced it, but they still had fallout. So I don't know, and anyhow, I don't know if they ever get rid of that. But in the meantime, I mean, going back up again, like I say, when we got into San Francisco, when we backed in off our initial cruise, cruise after the attack, I wrote this note to my mother, and then they started a censorship. And so I didn't know what happened, but anyhow, then we were the first ships coming back to the States, so evidently we brought the mail back to the States. And when they went through this mail, they cut out everything that they didn't want somebody to know. And in the meantime, my mother, she had 2 sons over there. She didn't know what happened. She had no word at all. And finally then, on the second day of January, evidently we brought the mail back to San Francisco and the mail from San Francisco. And she got my letter on the second day of January, 1942. But in the meantime, my sister and my brother were both home, and they said my mother went nuts. And I can imagine. But anyhow, that's the extent of my thing. But like I say, I thank the Japs for celebrating my birthday. It wasn't the way I wanted it. But I talked to my brother about a week ago. He's down in Virginia. He stayed for 30 years. He's a Mustang, like the commander is here. And he retired on 30 years. And we've been close ever since that time. And we were reminiscing here about a week or two ago. And we said, how many of the 17 that we had coming to my birthday bash? It was just a birthday bash. You know, I mean, what can you do on $30 a month, you know? And so anyhow, we figured out that we are the only two living out of the 17. And we both went through the war, like I say, from Pearl Harbor to the end. And thank God, we appreciate the flag. That flag is, that is a whole country to me. And so when I see somebody destroying that flag or in any way abusing it, it makes me boil because that flag meant so much to us. But anyhow, on the invasion of Salerno, we went through 60-some air raids. And, at one time, we got a foothold, and the Germans reestablished themselves and pushed us back off the island of Salerno. So they took every soldier that they mustered, including the guys that hauled the boats in, unloaded the ships to take the artillery, the trucks, and so on and so forth to the land. Well, they took them all off. So as a result, I volunteered. I don't know if I volunteered or they told me to, but I did volunteer to run some of these boats in to unload. We'd hit the beach, drop the gates, and run these trucks of ammo off, and take them up and put them in a spot and come back in again. But one time, we were just about hit the beach, and here come an air raid again. When they come in out of the sun. You don't see them until they're on you. So we run, and we lay down in the boat crew, lay down in the tracks of the trucks that were on ahead of you, and we just laid in there. It made the smallest target you could, and I was laying like this, I could see the sand, dust bombing right over me, but evidently I was in between two shots. So anyhow, to me, a Navy life is a great life. One thing about the Navy, I never slept in anything but clean sheets. I never did anything but ate good warm meals because we always had a galley. But we all knew that someday, somewhere, and when we were in convoy, we lost a lot of ships in convoy. We knew one day we might have to take a good, hard drink of salt water, and that'd be over. But thank God he was with me. And I just had my 81st birthday 2 days ago, on the 5th of December. And like I say, I'm thankful for everything. And I praise the commander here for what he does on Pearl Harbor Day, because so many people forgot Pearl Harbor. And I will never forget it. And I'll never forget President Roosevelt saying, "This day will live in infamy." Well, it does to me. And the best part of it was, all the islands through, there were two great celebrations during the war. One was VT Day, when people really celebrated in every place on shore, and VJ Day. And where was I? In the middle of the ocean. this that I didn't get the pleasure of it. But I definitely say of my 6 years in the Navy, it was all adventure. Some of it was tough, some of it was real bad. But when you're young, foolish, it passes over. And to me, I still say to this day, incidentally, when I joined the Navy in 41, I was never out of the state of Pennsylvania. And the Depression time, no place to go, no far to go. So, and to this very day, I've never been in the air. I've never flown. And on the 50th anniversary, which was 12 years ago, my brother called me and said, Al, he says, let's go to Hawaii for the 50th anniversary of Pearl Harbor. Well, I said, Tony, I said, you know, I've never flown. I said, when they build that bridge, I'll go. So anyhow, that's the end of my story, and I hope I wasn't too boring. I mean, this is just what I got verbatim, and if I was boring to you, I apologize. But I got off my chest. Now, thank you.
Thank you, sir. Three things. I want to be warned when you have a birthday party next time. I want the copyrights on writing your biography. And I guess in 30 years in the Navy, there's one thing I learned what the word Navy stands for. Never again volunteer yourself. You didn't learn that.
No, I didn't.
You didn't learn that. Thank you, Al. Thank you for those enlightening words. Great. At this time, we'll have some special music presented by some very special people. They will be introduced by our musical director, Bob Stuckey. Well, last time I was going to replace you. Today you got a title. What do you want?
For your listening pleasure tonight, we have Miranda Hill from Girl Scout Troop 342 here in the front. On the flute, and George Woodson, who's from the Boy Scout Troop 50 here in the front. And they're both sixth graders from County, and they are going to play My Country to the Bee of the U.S. And
Thank you, young folks. Appreciate that. Our keynote speaker this evening is not a stranger to our programs. You know him as our special guest who talks about Old Glory. Well, tonight he wants to talk about Pearl Harbor, the flag, and TAPS. Lieutenant Colonel Francis A. Romeo, United States Air Force retired, was born and raised in Du Bois. Graduated from St. Catherine's High School in 1948. Enlisted in the United States Air Force in 1948. A veteran of the Korean War, having served there from 1950 to 52. Honorably discharged in 1952. Graduated from Penn State Higher Accounting, majoring in Business Administration. Employed as a commercial banker for 36 years with the Union Banking and Trust Company of Du Bois. Enjoyed both military and civilian life. Completed many courses with the Air University of Maxwell Air Force Base in Montgomery, Alabama, Regional Staff College, National Staff College, and the Air War College. Served as an instructor for leadership courses and other courses at the 911 Tactical Airlift Command. Served as a city controller for the city of Du Bois. Past senior commander of the Veterans of Foreign Wars Post 813 and past commander of American Legion Post 17 Du Bois. Presently serving as chaplain for both organizations. Also chaplain and member of the Du Bois Area Honor Guard. Honorary member of the 190th Field Artillery Battalion and serving as their chaplain. A volunteer with the Disabled American Veterans Organization and a member of the U.S. Air Force Association. Ladies and gentlemen, a friend of the post, a veteran's veteran, and a true patriot of patriotism, Lieutenant Colonel Francis A. Romeo.
Comrade Commander Soliday, His Honor the Mayor of the Earl of Big Run, fellow veterans, special guest Al Rudzinski, Pearl Harbor survivor, and a very good friend of mine who is here this evening, Lieutenant Colonel Joseph Federici, United States Army retired, and also at Pearl Harbor. And the Du Bois Area Honor Guard, I have to recognize them, our ladies, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls. As the commander said, I've been in Big Run quite a bit this year, that's true. Thank you, Your Honor. In fact, Your Honor, you know something? Since I spent so much time in Big Run this past year, I thought you would have made me an honorary citizen of Big Run. How did I get? Ladies and gentlemen, it is an honor for me to be here again this evening. I want to thank Commander Soliday for having me. Today, December the 7th, is a day that our President Franklin Delano Roosevelt, and echoing the words of our Pearl Harbor survivor here, he said, and I quote, "A day that will live in infamy," referring to the bloody and destructive attack on our naval fleet at Pearl Harbor. And after that, a Japanese admiral said, and I quote, "We have only succeeded in waking up a sleeping giant," referring to the United States. And he was right. In the next 4 years, our glorious nation and our allies brought the Empire of Japan down to their knees. But the cost to preserve freedom was most expensive. Not only in dollars, but in sacrifices, wounds, disablement, and even death of our men and women in uniform. After 62 years, we still remember the brave men and women in all branches of the service who gave unselfishly of themselves and were willing to lay down their lives and make the supreme sacrifice so that this great nation of ours could continue to be free. It is not about politics nor the cost of war. It is about those who fight them and those who died in them. It is about saying that we do not forget them. It is about saying thank you for the sacrifices that they made in our behalf. But not only to them, to their parents also, who gave their sons and daughters for their country, for the wives and husbands that waited for their return, and for the children who longed for their parents, and many did not return. In the words of President Abraham Lincoln, and I love to quote from famous men, I didn't include that Jap as a famous man when I said what he said after they attacked Pearl Harbor, no? But in the words of President Abraham Lincoln, and I quote from his famous Gettysburg Address, "It is for us the living to be dedicated to the unfinished work which they fought, have thus so notably advanced." And still today, in the year 2003, there are still brave men and women willing to lay down their lives around the world so that this nation will remain free. Now, I would like to it's interesting to me, and I hope it is to you, a little known part of our military. Do you know that at military funerals, the 21-gun salute stands for the sum of the numbers in the year 1776? Have you ever noticed the honor guard at the funerals? We pay strict attention to correctly floating this banner of love and devotion, the United States flag, 13 times. Now, you probably thought that it was to symbolize the 13 original colonies, but we learn something new every day. The first fold of our flag is a symbol of life. The second fold is a symbol of our belief in eternal life. The third fold is made in honor and remembrance of the veterans departing our ranks who gave a portion of their lives in defense of their country. The fourth fold represents our weaker nation. For as American citizens, trusting in God, it is to Him that we turn to in time of war and in time of peace for His divine guidance. The fifth fold is a tribute to our country. For in the words of Stephen Decatur, our country is dealing with other countries. May she always be right. But it is still our country, right or wrong. The sixth fold of that flag is for where our hearts lie. It is our heart that we pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands. The seventh fold is a tribute to our armed forces. For it is through the armed forces that we protect our country and the freedoms that we enjoy. The eighth fold of the flag is a tribute to the one who entered the valley of the shadow of death so that we might see the light of day. The ninth fold is a tribute to woman. character of the men and women who have made this country great. The 10th fold of the flag is for the father, for he too has given his sons and daughters for the defense of our country since they were first born. The 11th fold represents the lower portion of the seal of King David and King Solomon, and glorifies in the Hebrews' eyes the gods of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. The 12th fold represents the emblem of eternity and glorifies the Christians in God's eyes, God the Father, God the Son, and God the Holy Spirit. The 13th fold is when the flag is completely folded and the stars are uppermost, reminding us of our nation's motto, "In God we trust." Now, after the flag is completely folded and tucked in, it takes on the appearance of a cocked hat, like a triangle, reminding us of the soldiers who served under General George Washington and the sailors and Marines who served under Captain John Paul Jones, who were followed by their comrades and shipmates in the armed forces of the United States, preserving for us the rights, privileges, and freedoms that we enjoy today. Now there's something else that I would like to impart to you, something else that we do in the military. We have all heard the haunting song called the Taps. It is a song that gives us a lump in our throats and sometimes puts tears in our eyes. But do you know the story behind the song? If not, I hope you will be pleased to find out about the way that they came about. Reportedly now, it all began in 1862 during the Civil War, when Union Army Captain Robert Abercrombie was with his men near Harrison's Landing in Virginia. The Confederate Army was on the other side of the narrow strip of land. During the night, Captain Abercrombie heard the moans of a soldier who lay severely wounded on the field. Not knowing if it was a Union soldier or a soldier from the Confederacy, the captain decided that he would risk his life anyway to bring the stricken man back for medical attention. Crawling on his stomach through the gunfire, the captain reached the stricken soldier and began pulling him towards the encampment. When the captain finally reached his own lines, he discovered that it was not a Union soldier, but it was a Confederate soldier, and that the soldier was dead. The captain lit a lantern and suddenly caught his breath and went into shock. In the dim light, he saw the face of the soldier, and it was his own son. The boy had been studying music in the South when the war broke out. Without telling his father, the boy enlisted in the Confederate Army. So the following morning, heartbroken, the father asked permission of his supervisors to give his son a full military burial despite his enemy status. His request was only partially granted. The captain had asked if he could have a group of Army band members play a funeral song for his son while they buried him. The request was turned down since the soldier But out of respect for the father, they asked the bugler to play a series of musical notes. The musical notes were found on a piece of paper in the pocket of the dead youth's uniform. This wish was granted. The haunting melody we know as taps, used at military funerals, was thus reborn. I thank you.
Thank you for those words, Colonel. Thank you very much. This time I'd ask you to please rise for the benediction given by our post chaplain, playing of eternal fathers, sounding of the bells, firing of the guns, and taps. Chaplain. Thank you.
Almighty God, our gratitude for thy generosity grows with each passing day. We acknowledge this day's special blessings. We have honored those who now enjoy thy eternal embrace. We ask thy blessing on all who are present. Especially do we seek consolation for those recently bereaved. May thy grace be with them and with us now and forever. And if it be thy will, may we all be favored together again in these circumstances and in this company before another year has passed. Amen.
Right hand, salute. Sue, you see it, please. Joe.
Today we recall an event that changed the course of history and the destiny of civilization. More than 60 years ago, the attack on Pearl Harbor awoke a sleeping giant, and with it produced what has been called the greatest generation. That day of infamy produced many U.S. casualties. 3,500 dead or wounded, 18 ships sunk or damaged, and more than 350 aircraft destroyed. Although it was a great day of tragedy, it also was a day that served to revive and replenish our national pride and our great national spirit. We remember the events of December 7th, 1941, but more importantly, we recall the thousands of soldiers, sailors, Marines, and airmen who died during that terrible ambush and in the subsequent years that followed. Franklin D. Roosevelt spoke with prophetic words when he stated, "No matter how long it will take us to overcome the premeditated invasion, the American people, in their righteous might, will win through absolute victory. With the abounding determination of our people, we will gain the inevitable triumph. So help us God." America was strengthened by its enduring values of freedom, tolerance, and service. The long odds that we faced during those dark days in 1941 fueled the indomitable spirit of our nation and carried us through to ultimate victory against the Axis powers. The attack on Pearl Harbor taught us that we need to be ever vigilant against enemies in our way of life. It taught us the necessity of maintaining a strong national defense and a well-trained and well-equipped military able to thwart the efforts of freedom-hating tyrants. For almost 61 years, the lessons learned from the attack on Pearl Harbor have kept our nation safe and secure. But we learned on September 11th, 2001, that we must never assume that because we enjoy an abundance of freedom that we are exempt from danger. The attacks that occurred on December 7th, 1941 and September 11th, 2001 prove a point. Our people may be killed and our buildings destroyed, but our enemies will never be successful in destroying our democracy of the American way of life. Many of the survivors of the attack on Pearl Harbor are no longer with us. Many of them went on to serve in other places. Excuse me. Some became casualties of other battles. A good many returned home to their families and friends and quietly resumed their lives as civilians. Their contributions, their sacrifice, their steadfast devotion to duty, God, country, and to their families provide us with examples we need to emulate all the days of our life. We should remain inspired by their dignity and their perseverance. Today, we are strengthened by their demonstrations of resolve and perseverance. Let us leave here equally resolved in our determination to serve our nation as well.
This concludes our memorial program for Pearl Harbor. We thank all of you for attending tonight. This is our final patriotic program for this year. As always, we thank those who have supported us throughout the year. The Du Bois Area Honor Guard, the young children and their music instruments, our speakers such as Al and the Colonel, and our Girl Scouts and our Boy Scouts, for which we could not do without, and our Ladies Auxiliary. As always, the community, citizens, and fellow veterans of Big Run has made our year successful. Because of you and your continuing support, we make it all worthwhile. We hope to see you in the spring at our Loyalty Day program, which will be Sunday, the 2nd of May, 2004. Until then, we wish you the happiest of holidays and a prosperous new year, and a God bless you, and a God bless America. Good night, and thank you. The Ladies Auxiliary has some refreshments over there if you would like to socialize with us.